let's shift gears for a minute. I want to welcome our colleague Ryan to our neural network meeting today. Hey, Ryan.
Howdy, folks. Long time no see.
Yeah, I'll give my colleagues just a minute to introduce themselves to you, and then we'll start our conversation. So we're so happy you're here with us today. It's really important for us to hear from you.
So we're super excited that you've been able to get something started in Delaware.
Yeah, and it's great to meet you as well. I read both the Phil articles, so it's great to put a face with the name. And yeah, so I first heard about the Phil a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. Dr. Fulkerson had started talking about it, and I thought, wow, that would be great for our district because we only offer Spanish. We're a very small Southern Delaware rural district. And students would often ask me, hey, why can't we take French? Why can't we learn other languages? And so, when I first heard about it a few years ago, it was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. That would be great to do someday. And then probably early on in 2023, Dr. Fulkerson, I knew that he had gotten a small group together to talk about it further. And I don't know where I was, but I must have missed the initial email or conversation about it. And I found out about it afterwards. And I said, Dr. Fulkerson, I'd really like to be a part of this. So let me go, let me join you. And that was in May of 2023. And that's when I first met Tom. And just, he showed us how to use ChatGPT. And it was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And honestly, I kind of jumped on the bandwagon and haven't looked back yet. And just having him in class today, showing us some new ideas with the ChatGPT was really cool. That I look forward to, starting tomorrow with my students. I think tomorrow we're going to have a ChatGPT day where we explore the things that you had showed us. And with regard to the can-do statements, we just had our Delaware Council on the Teaching of Foreign Language workshop back in September, early September. And we had, I don't know if you folks know, Leah Grainer Kennedy.
Oh, yeah.
She joined us. She was the keynote speaker. And kind of in relation to the can-do statements, she was talking about the FACT, the FACT acronym that's in the new ACTFL handout, and particularly focusing on the function of language. What are the functions that the students can do with language? And it was really interesting to hear her take on it as an ACTFL person of, going through and listening to thousands of stamp test data. The students are focusing on describing things, and not a whole lot of other stuff, especially at the novice level. So to think of it as like, all right, what can students do? What functions can they accomplish with language apart from describing? In what ways can they share preferences even at a novice level, or some kind of functions that we might think are more so for the advanced level? She was sharing examples of how even novice learners could do a wider array of functions. So one thing that I started doing with ChatGPT was asking it to generate a table of different functions of language across, reading, writing, speaking, listening, as well as the Gardner's multiple intelligences. When I was coming up in my methods courses, the Gardner's multiple intelligences was something that always stuck with me. So I am making these tables using ChatGPT of different activities across the different intelligences, across the different modes of communication. But one thing that Tom had showed us in class today is that it doesn't have to just be me making these tables. The students can do it too, and they can do it very easily. So that's sort of the next step for us. But to just give you sort of a quick overview of how Phil's going so far, it's almost more amazing than I would have thought that it was. And it's challenging, but it's fun. And the students are impressing me every day because my goal, I have 10 different languages in this Phil course. And beforehand, I was thinking like, oh, I'm going to keep up with the students and I'm going to learn the languages with them. And then by week 2 or 3, it was like, oh, no way, I can't do that. I'm focusing on Mandarin. So I'm doing Duolingo and talking with the student learning Mandarin in class, just because I figured I'm a Spanish teacher by trade. So I wanted to pick one that's, outside of the Romance languages that I wanted to focus on. But just hearing the students pronounce words and teach me how to pronounce the words, especially I have a girl learning Greek, and her pronunciation of the Greek alphabet is pretty spot on so far. And then the students that are learning American Sign Language are teaching me new things every day. So I guess that's one thing that I didn't expect, that the students were going to get ahead of me so quickly and start teaching me stuff.
And Ryan, could you tell us briefly how many kids you actually have enrolled in the class, and then let us know let folks know the range of languages?
Sure. I have about 25 students. I forget the exact number, 23, I think exactly. And so they're students learning advanced Spanish, because we had a college level Spanish course, but we took it out of the schedule this year because of low enrollment. It's historically had low enrollment. So my principal had asked me, would I rather keep that course and have larger Spanish 1 numbers, or should I roll that course into Phil in order to have smaller Spanish 1 numbers? So I went with rolling it into Phil and having smaller Spanish 1 numbers. But they can still get advanced credit. And I'll talk a little bit. Remind me to talk about what we put in the student handbook regarding weights. So I have advanced Spanish, Italian, French, German, Turkish, Greek, Korean, Mandarin, Japanese, and ASL.
That's great. That's amazing.
Yeah.
How does your administration think about this? Are they supportive?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think one of the benefits of being a small district is that I didn't have a whole lot of hoops to jump through. I first presented the idea at our June PLC leader meeting with the district. And it was kind of like, okay, yeah, sure, do more research and get back to us. And then in November of 2023, I put together a presentation, went to the admin's PLC meeting, kind of talked about what it was, how I was planning on implementing it. We talked about some next steps. Our focus for Phil was this year's 9th graders. We wanted it to be something that they could have all 4 years. So we opened it up to last year's 8th graders. They completed an application process. They needed recommendation letters from teachers just to say that, the teachers believed that they could do self-paced learning. So we had an application process. We rolled that out in the January, February of this past year. But admin's been on board. I think that they trusted me. I've worked with them a long time. They don't speak other languages, so it was kind of like well, this is our world language PLC leader, and if he thinks he can pull it off, then we'll let him do it. Yeah, it's been fun, and I'm really glad to bring it to Delmar, and I'm really hoping that it grows and will persist at Delmar even after I'm long gone and wherever I am. But hopefully it's something that's going to be a long-term thing at Delmar. Yeah, it's just you put these really motivated, intelligent kids in a room and you get out of their way, and it's really cool to see what they'll do on their own.
All right. Well, Ryan, thank you so much. It's been invaluable.
Thanks for having me. It was
Thanks,
great to meet everybody.